All right, welcome in everybody. This is a special edition of Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I will be your MC, your master of ceremony. Dennis is somewhere, I don't know. We don't really care. I want to welcome the Unabomber here. We finally found him, ladies and gentlemen.
You're welcome.
It's been years, unfortunately. We got Huber here, and then we're joined by two, basically the two women in our lives, besides our wives, that keep us in check. Bailey and Zazzy. We need it, trust me, because without them, this would be an absolute clown show.
Yeah.
And so, ladies, go ahead and say hello.
I'm like, oh, that won't get us flagged on YouTube, will it? Sorry. Last time I was on, I sang, and I think it got us flagged.
Yes.
Hi.
Yeah, we do get copyright strikes, but unfortunately, we don't earn any revenue yet. So until then, we can do whatever we want. It's beautiful.
Love.
Okay, so how was everyone's 4th of July? We're going to go over this again from behind the scenes to in front of the camera.
What?
Just nothing? Okay, cool.
No, I said it was wet. The skies opened up and drenched everything we were.
That is true. I mean,
God looked upon FC Dallas and rained on us.
It was like this.
We rained on ourselves, let's be honest.
That's the fair point.
We took the piss.
Literally.
Oh, okay. We're using British slang now? Is that what we're doing? All right, before we get all serious or not so, we want to do our condolences here for our Texas community in Kern County, which is in the Hill Country. Anyone who's familiar with Texas know that's a breadbasket of Texas. That's where the wine, peaches, everything's from there. Been lost of life, unfortunately, and we want to say our condolences to anyone who's affected by that. If you guys have anything else to add.
We will be posting more this week. Tomorrow, I'm not sure when this comes out, but on Monday, we're going to be posting links on how we can help those affected up here in the DFW area so that we can help give our support to our Texas family down in the Hill Country.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right, so we're going to get into soccer. Like I said, this is going to be a short pod. This is basically for the Club World Cup and what we've been notating as the summer of soccer, which, to be honest, has been slightly overwhelming.
SOS.
Yeah, basically. There's always a game on. It has been an absolute show, absolutely. So we're going to start off with our usual. I'm not a fan of this competition because it's always hosted here. It's supposed to be a continental cup, and it's always in North America. And by North America, I mean the United States. We're going to talk about the derby that is Mexico, United States. Short thoughts are the final will be, I think, on the 10th, right? Is that when the final is?
Finals tonight.
Today.
Tonight? Oh, wait.
Tonight at 6 p.m.
In like 2 hours. Yeah.
2.5 hours. It's in Houston. It's okay. We all forget about Houston in this tournament as well.
Fair enough. So do we have any thoughts about the Gold Cup final, Mexico v. United States? We got a Mexico fan here. How do you feel about your squad?
I mean, I think I feel about the same way as most U.S. fans feel, as someone who has a foot in both sides, a foot in the grave and a foot in the other grave. Neither team really brought the full-blown A squad. I think Mexico got closer to an A squad than the U.S. did, but, neither of them really brought that much. I think most people on paper think that Mexico is probably the better team this game, but I feel like the U.S., and I know it's cliche, but I think they got more grit, like your Diego Luna people, like that. Might give an edge. I don't know. I don't really have a lot of faith for the Mexican national team as someone who's rooted for them forever. So I'm just going to be self-deprecating like I am for the FC Dallas team.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to back that and say, right, I think we're also seeing this weird in between where we had what were called like the golden eras for both rosters. And then they keep saying, oh, like, we're developing, we're just waiting for our next golden era. And like, it really sucks, right? For some of these kids and some of these people who keep getting call-ups because they're essentially being told like, you're not good enough for the roster. So we're waiting for the next generation. But that's what both sides have right now. And both sides are hosting the World Cup next year, potentially with at least 75% of the people who are on these Gold Cup rosters right now. So, if that's the best both sides have, whew.
I rarely have faith in a U.S. men's squad, honestly. Like I'm always like surprised when they're doing okay, but yeah, so I'm not necessarily surprised by any of this.
I will
My
say,
frustration going into this is that.
hold on, Hubert,
Oh, go ahead.
hold on. I will say
Yeah.
her pause when she said, "I don't have very much faith in U.S. men," and there was a pause there. I was like, that can't be the end of the sentence, right?
But it could
I think
be.
we all.
But it could. Yes, Sassy.
I think we all feel that. I think we all feel that.
My
Both
soul.
Okay, go ahead, Hubert. Sorry, I
think my frustration, and like I understand why a host nation is supposed to automatically qualify, but to not go through the gauntlet of qualification, it feels like you're really robbing yourself of trying to like develop players, put them in a real competitive atmosphere. Like nothing in CONCACAF feels anywhere near as daunting as CONCACAF qualification, even for like the big three of Canada, the US, and Mexico. Like even the Gold Cup, when it's a competitive year for them or something, doesn't feel even as hardcore as CONCACAF World Cup qualification. And I think the stakes are raised by it being in every country, not just the US, like you were talking about.
Well, and I also really have issue with the fact that the United States did not qualify for the last World Cup when the pressure was on, and now they don't seem to be playing like there's any pressure. It's going to be an expanded tournament next year. They have an auto qualification. So, like, are we actually developing U.S. soccer? Are we actually developing these younger generations to be ready? Or are we just saying, hey, we're good with the status quo?
Okay, so I'm gonna give my opinion as an outsider. We flamed out in the group stage, which is fine. Our coach almost got fired for that as a Jamaican supporter, as you can see up top here. Here's the thing. So the qualifying as the host nation makes sense, especially for smaller nations like Qatar, some countries that would never qualify without that. If you're going to expand it, and it looks like FIFA now is going forward, going to do 3 country groups. I don't think that makes sense. So every 3 countries get to qualify automatically. That to me, that only makes sense if we do like an Oceania World Cup, because then some of those tiny countries are never making it to the World Cup. So it would give them an opportunity to be like Auckland in the Club World Cup, where they got blown out 10-0. Like, we need more of that in our lives, really. The Gold Cup, if it's going to be a Confederates Cup, it needs to be in multiple countries. That's unfortunate. I think the U.S. men's national team is an absolute shit show. I think we're going through a different version of Landon Donovan. For those of us who remember back enough, when Landon went through his mental health stuff and he stopped playing and he came back and then didn't get picked for the squad. We're doing that now with Christian. He's a guy who apparently it can't be that he doesn't understand pressure, right? He plays for some of the biggest clubs in the world.
Right.
The fact that you get booed at home, a lot of these players I think are getting spoiled. It's kind of like Lucho when he went back.
Poor wealthy white boy can't handle it.
I know. He's from Hershey, though. Come on now. The only thing out there is chocolate, basically.
And a sick park.
Fair enough.
That's true.
Yeah. So
we love green space.
Yes, we do. But yeah, that's the thing about Christian is that I don't think and like I said, Lucho, when he went back to Cincinnati, this idea that you should love me because I played here is a weird, like, you haven't done anything. You didn't win anything. Like, what exactly is this love supposed to come from? Right? You become a legend because you win things, or you're a steward of the club, like Steven Gerrard in Liverpool. Like, those are the people who are loved unconditionally. If you just come here and you bitch the whole time, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Going back to, we never expect anything from U.S. men, ... I'm just kidding.
I mean, that being said, I think within 2 cycles, I think the women are going to have a fight underhand.
Oh, they already do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But at
With
least
Canada.
that feels like that's because competition is catching up, not because they're not developing. You know what I mean?
Yes. I said a long time ago, women's college soccer is what made the women's national team overpowered, because so many countries, women didn't play sport in general, and definitely not soccer. And now that's, everybody else is flipping a switch. The Japanese women, I think, are the closest. Personally, I think they might be the next one up. But it's
Canada's
really
giving them all a run for their money. Canada's looking good.
Fair enough. Although Jesse Marsh losing this game is probably going to be an issue. Guatemala is not an opponent they should lose. plus the Alphonse Davis issue that they're running through in Canada. That
Oh my goodness, what a nightmare!
If that isn't fixed quickly, that might be a problem for them. So, I mean, any final thoughts here on the Gold Cup? I personally, like I said, it's not a competition I care about. I only care about it when Jamaica's in the final, which I think is twice in the last 4 iterations or 5 iterations. But yeah, I think if this is a warm up for the World Cup, I think CONCACAF is in massive issues. But any final thoughts from you guys?
I think that the U.S. men's fan base is just a messy fan base in general. And like the team has always been kind of messy with like all the parents involved and like how Ma and Pa it feels operated for a while. Like, so I guess I've come to expect the drama that weirdly comes up with the men's national team. I say that as, again, a Mexico supporter. They're very messy in Mexico too, although there it's more on the media side than anything. But I don't know. For me at this point, it's like it's just part of the show. It's reality TV on the field.
Yeah, it's glorified club soccer, right? Like, I don't know what to say. You see how the parents are and pay to play club sports here in the United States, and it's just that on a glorified international level, which I guess saying club can lead us into our next wonderful topic. Oh, you're muted.
Still muted, unfortunately.
Here's the thing, guys. I'm a boomer in a millennial's body, so I need y'all to give me. Yeah. That okay boomer thing offended me still. Anyways, yes, that was a great segue, guys. I appreciate it. Never mind me. Zazzy, you were gonna say something?
No, I didn't.
No, you weren't gonna make fun of me? That was like a layup right there.
Nope.
Okay. So segue to the other thing that they're doing this summer is the Club World Cup, the money grab, cash grab that it is.
Oof.
It's turned out there've been some really beautiful games. Unfortunately, that's a really sucky part about soccer in America. This is my small tangent, is that you want to hate it because the business is terrible, but then the play on the field makes you like enjoy it type kind of sort of. So it's like really annoying.
Yeah.
But so here we go. We're gonna pull up the brackets. I think to start off, the biggest surprise is the Brazilian clubs giving everybody a run for their money.
You know what? I disagree with this because anybody who watched this competition when it used to be called the Club World Cup before, the Brazilian clubs were always coming up and doing work.
You got to remember, we live in a goldfish society. They only remember the last 20 minutes.
Yeah. I don't know. I came into this saying that I thought the Brazilian clubs were going to show out. And
I actually thought
evidenced by that in the past. That's all.
I actually thought the Japanese club would have performed a little better. But again, as always, people always seem to be fascinated by Japanese supporters, whether it's, the bowing. I don't know why. It's weird. But either way, I was personally surprised by the Brazilian clubs. And let's shout out to the part-time employees that are Auckland United or SC. The fact
they gave up PTO and some of them lost pay just to come over and play, which is wild.
I think they're going to make that up in fundraising for sure.
Yeah.
They're going to be fine. But yeah, shout out to the small minnows. Here's the thing. It's a catch-22. You want the small clubs to come, and yet it's kind of embarrassing when they get blown out in that match.
Right. They can't all be the Burrito Boys.
Facts, El Burrito. There we go. Can't be the Open Cup. But yeah, any thoughts on this? The competition as a whole. Well, we're gonna get into some of the off-field issues, but as far as on-field, what do we think about the performances and everything that comes with the spectacle?
I can talk from the Bayern side because I know how I feel about Bayern Munich, who lost to PSG yesterday.
Yeah.
But I mean, Musiala is now out for who knows how long. I know that fans have feelings because they want to do well, have a good showing in the Club World Cup every year when they go, or not every year, but every time they go. But now it's going to put their regular season at risk, right? So it's interesting to see some of the dialogue between where is the balance of trying to win and then also potentially putting your next season at risk. If we're looking at some of them, right? You have a lot of these clubs that are playing simultaneously with their season right now. But when you're looking at the Bundesligas and the Premier Leagues and all of that, they're in their off season per se. But now they are going into their next season down players potentially because of injuries sustained from the Club World Cup. A lot of them also play for their national teams they are now injured while trying to find their roster spots on their national team for the World Cup next summer. So where is that balance? I don't know.
Right. A lot of these clubs would have been on vacation this month before they started their summer tours.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no break, and I think that's horrifying. I think it's worse for clubs like in England, where it's more competitive than, Bayern, but it's the same problem. I think Klopp has been the loudest critic of that, right? I think the last month or so, just like, yeah, the tournament concept is cool. Like, the idea behind it is a really neat idea, but no one's gonna. Well, some people will, but people aren't going to connect the dots when people are getting hurt later, because we're not going to be thinking about this tournament in 3 months. We're going to be thinking this guy got hurt, and we're not going to be going, yeah, and it's because he didn't have time off.
Well, I think
FIFA's just going to sweep that under the rug.
I think it's a cool concept, but I agree. Like, there's just constant tournaments happening all the time, and then like you said, like, they're going to be like, we have World Cup coming up next year, so some of these people are going to be playing there again. So it's just never ending. And of course, like, this is their job, this is what they do. But like, for it being such a physical sport and such a physical job, you kind of need to have that time to rest. And if they're not getting it now, they're not going to get it until basically after the World Cup. And for how long?
I think that the tournament is a cash grab. I don't think we can argue with that at all. And beyond that, it's a cash grab by taking money from Saudi Arabia, who's buying every sports thing they can, which is frustrating, without getting to live and all that stuff. But the concept of the tournament is cool. It's sound, I think, as a concept. It's fun to see all these styles that would never play each other, or seeing these different types of support show up against each other, like watching Boca and Bayern, right? Watching those two very different supporting styles against each other was so much fun, and watching the stands internationally filled with people that would never, ever run into each other. I think that is really cool, but the cost of that and the sports watching that we're letting FIFA do, and on top of that, not every club wrote stuff down where, like, the players are going to get bonuses for this tournament. Let's just talk about Seattle and why they're angry about it. Their players aren't going to see rewards from it like other clubs would have.
Well, that's the difference. So MLS PA didn't imagine this. Almost every other union, it's just a standard every tournament breakdown revenue. Yeah. Apparently, MLS PA specifically named what tournaments count, which to me as a contractor, you never do that. You just say, if revenue comes in, we break it down this way. I don't care.
Yeah, that's predatory.
Is. Yeah. It's just like, because we know who MLS is, and we know if they find a new revenue source, they're going to be like, oh no, well, that's not in the contract. You don't.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm aware that's not FIFA and the tournament's deal, but
yeah,
it's stuff like that has been allowed to happen with how ragtag it felt for a few months before it actually happened.
Yeah. I love everyone's input here. My opinion personally is, if you start off as a cash grab, nothing good can come from it, unfortunately, except for Auckland qualifying for this. I think it was $5 million. That club can sustain itself for quite a while on the $5 million.
Was it only 5 for them?
I think, is it 5 or 8? Whatever, just qualifying, you get a check. I think it was.
Was it by region?
No, just for qualifying. So just being
because LAFC got 10, didn't they?
Oh, they played in though. It was a different thing for them.
Oh, okay, got it.
The multiple owner thing in Mexico. Yeah. You know that shit showed. That's how it started out. You know what I'm saying? So that's how it started.
Minimum of $4.5 million.
Is it 4.5? There we go.
Plus potentially additional for their draw against Boca. So
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So Auckland is going to be sipping off that for a long time. So all those part-time employees could, they're gonna get their yearly salary at least in this. So for them, it's what was that?
Maybe a bonus.
Anything is a bonus for them. Let's just be honest. And then for the big boys, especially the European, because they're on their summer break. Like, I think Brazil is in season now, right? if I'm
I
not mistaken.
couldn't
If
tell
I
you
look
for
at the calendar.
sure. But what we
So
keep hearing too is that the Brazilian clubs were ramping up for the tournament, and they even did their fitness schedules to lead into this tournament.
yeah, so they wanted to show up. So it's one
Yeah.
of them things where I watched a couple of games, the big ones that sold out. It's one of them things where like it's beautiful to watch like full stadiums for soccer, especially the Rose Bowl. For me, now the players hated it because it's really
Yeah.
it's a hot box, which we will get
Yeah.
into next. But it's like you said, it's different styles. So my follow up is next time where are they going to host it? Because if they bring it back here again, I know
Same.
it's just a money grab, right? And that's going to be an annoying bit. So it depends on whether or not they rotate it like they're supposed to. To me, what they should do to save countries from spending money on stadiums, like what happened with Brazil, where the stadiums go unused after the World Cup, is that you rotate them where you have the Men's World Cup, the Club World Cup, then the Women's World Cup. So basically, that country will just fall in line for
All
multiple
three.
tournaments, so that the stadiums that if I'm going to spend close to $1 billion on a stadium, now for North America, that's not an issue because we just have stadiums here.
Mhm.
But for a lot of countries, obviously, you're outlaying lots of money for a thing. It would be nice if FIFA said, okay, when you bid, you actually bid all of these. But
the Club World Cup always should be in the same country as the host. It might not happen. When we looked at Qatar, Qatari stadiums weren't ready, right? They had to build all their stadiums. But, Brazil might get some extra use. They have the Women's World Cup coming up that they're hosting. So they have some extra usage of their
That's a couple.
stadiums that went to ruins for a hot second.
Fair enough. All right, so let's wrap this up a little bit. Let's looking at the bracket. Who do we have in the final?
I don't know. PSG looked. I was gonna say PSG looked really good yesterday. I'm not gonna lie. I hate Chelsea. I don't want them to win. But I'll do a PSG Chelsea final, and I will cheer for PSG.
I'm actually the same, though. I kind of like Chelsea, but yeah, I do see PSG being in the final, and I do see like it makes sense.
I mean, wait, is this the first, before Hubert answers, is this the first iteration where FIFA is going to have a halftime show, or is that for the World Cup next year?
I couldn't tell you.
Not sure. I don't know.
I know they're talking about 20-minute halftime instead of 15 in order to fix a show.
Are they going to use cheerleaders?
But we saw how well that went with Shakira with the fucking. Sorry, Don. I just said fuck. Whatever.
Twice.
Sorry. With whatchamacallit, the tournament that went so well last year with Common Ball. She didn't even get halfway through her set.
Oh, the Copa America?
There you go, that one.
Yeah, I think for soccer, 15 minutes to set up a set. I don't know. We'll see how they do it next year in the World Cup. But like I said, this is in MetLife, the same place it's going to be next year. So this is a perfect test run. But yeah, Hubert, who do you have? I'm sure the Brazilians, right?
I got PSG and Fluminense, actually. I think Fluminense can handle Chelsea. I really think. We'll see what happens. But I think PSG wins the whole thing. I think PSG is the most dangerous club on the planet right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying best. I just think they can beat anyone.
They're playing well, cohesive.
Yeah, and they're just so fast on the counter, man. Like, they're so fast. I've never seen a team change direction so quick.
I will say PSG is one of those examples that prove the negative, or the positive. They spent a bunch of money initially getting stars to win, and they couldn't, and they stopped doing that, and it looks like they're winning. So money isn't everything, guys.
Yeah.
Just a quick side note on that. Okay, so we are going to transition. So the Club World Cup, we all agree, is a prequel to the World Cup. Leading into this, awarding us, everybody and their mom told me, don't worry, we handle big events every day. Look at college football. We can do this, no issues. And as it turns out, holding a summer tournament anywhere is an issue. So let's bring up one of the main issues. They changed the Qatari World Cup to the winter for heat. Now, we don't see temperatures near as bad as the desert, but how do you feel like the weather is going to affect attendance and performance next year?
Oh, it 100% will.
I don't know. I kind of lean towards it's mostly a non-issue to me because we've hosted a World Cup here and it got freaky hot and it was fine.
But we also just saw Dortmund having to sit inside during a game
But you even
Yeah.
think
because it was too hot
But
outside
they're
for
going to
them.
have more time leading up to the tournament to acclimate than they did for this one.
and if you think about like Paris a few years ago for like the Women's World Cup, it was like 90s to 100s for and like
Hey,
struggle,
I was
but-
there.
Yeah, so you know. Like I think that's something to be expected. Is it a good thing? No, but like it is like it's the summer, so
I think it's also not just the players we need to worry about. I think it's people traveling over and workers, because workers are not going to always have the same situations if they're like working concessions or if they're working directly out in the heat on the
Yeah.
outside, walking around. We have people who are coming over to watch. I don't know how many people, right? We didn't have that many organized fan groups actually come to a Club World Cup. Who knows how many are actually going to come over for World Cup? But we have people who are not acclimated to this heat, who are acclimated to drinking a lot. So I think we might see some heat-related health issues
Yeah.
on the spectator side. I would go out to venture, and this is something I've been saying across like all the coalitions that the Independent Supporters Council are in and stuff. Zazie can maybe talk to this more, but I think there are lessons to learn from K-pop. Hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. Okay? Stray Kids just did North American dates in many of venues that are going to either be near the World Cup host sites or in the exact same stadiums in both the United States and Canada. And they had issues where we saw the stadiums jacking up the prices of Gatorade and water to the point where spectators were passing out because they couldn't either, if it was not sold out, it was expensive. You had the actual artists canceling halfway through. They were throwing their own waters out. Obviously, like soccer teams are not going to be able to toss their own water bottles out, right? And then there was ingress and egress issues with people standing in the heat trying to get into the stadiums and out of the stadiums. And I don't know if Zazie has anything to add to that because we both listen to K-pop for those who don't know. But I thought it was really actually very telling that if they're not prepared, these stadiums where, as Marcus said, right, we're supposed to be used to hosting these big events, yet here we are seeing, even at a concert level for one-offs, they're not prepared for the mass amount of spectators coming in to the stadiums.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can I rephrase my answer real quick? I don't think it'll be an issue on the field because I believe that the teams and players, like they do at every World Cup,
Mhm.
will take their steps to acclimatize or whatever the word is I'm looking for. I am worried about the supporter side of things for sure. I do think that's way scarier.
Like we've even on our end, we've seen like he have an issue even in the supporter section. Like we're Texas, it's hot and we know it's going to be hot, but that doesn't mean that things happen in the heat. And so I think that like because we live here and because we are kind of used to it, we might be a little more mentally prepared. But
Yep.
Bailey's point, like people are coming from all over the world where it's not exactly like that. And they're going to be kind of expecting to have their own spectator experience that they're used to. So
Right.
I'm really hopeful that that is something that's being thought of. Unfortunately, I feel like it's not being considered.
We have
Yeah.
gotten it. We being ISC, for those who don't know, Independent Supporters Council is working on various coalitions for human rights. It has been brought up to FIFA and it is being brought up to the U.S. Soccer Federation. So hopefully that can get to the host cities that they need to start prepping that. Because the other end of that too, right, is you also have people who are not used to our health system
Yep.
over here. So if they do go down, not only were they just drinking, now they're dehydrated, whatever it might be, but they also have a lovely bill from the hospitals that they might not be
What?
used to
Yeah.
over here.
I will
On
say.
top
So
of that, I hope that they stock up on saline at all these hospitals.
I'm sorry. Some of these hospitals might not be open next year, but this
The
is not
big,
a
beautiful-
pod,
oh.
so we'll stop it. Anyway,
The big beautiful game.
K-pop,
The
that's
big,
what it
beautiful
is.
game.
That's what it is. I will say, I've always worried that a lot of fair enough. 2 strokes only. Yeah. Just a tip, actually. We can't even get the whole thing. Here's the thing.
Can't
So
afford
a lot of places are going to be overwhelmed and a lot of fans are going to be disappointed, especially when you come from coming from a place like Mexico or some places you might consider third world. They have at least working public transportation, and they're going to be highly disappointed when they come here. Speaking of healthcare, that is true. I've traveled to places, and you can technically buy travel health insurance, but here's who are most people won't think that, right? They think it'll work just like their country. Now, granted, Canada and Mexico have semi-decent working healthcare systems, so that might be helpful. And as a side note, depending on which countries qualify and how the temperament of our leadership is, we might have to stack the weights a little bit to get certain teams to play in different countries so that we don't have to worry about visa issues, which yada yada yada. This is what I mean. So this is supposed to be the world's game, and we're supposed to suspend politics momentarily at least to get this done. Unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen. Luckily, in 2028, when we have the Olympics, we will have new leaders. No, wait.
No, we won't. And we're already seeing countries who are having their visas denied for Olympic qualifications, like Cuba, right? Their volleyball team. So we're looking at visa issues, not just for teams. We're looking at potential visas for spectators who can get in and their safety once they're over here. But it's a whole thing. I have feelings.
So that leads into...
That could possibly go wrong right now.
Yeah, that leads into this. So America is not known for being soccer rich in some ways. So if you don't get the travelers to come here, will we have issues filling the stadium? Thoughts?
Well, one, I will say with Club World Cup, talking to Football Supporters Europe and a lot of the supporters from not over here, dynamic pricing blew their minds. This was like their first experience with dynamic pricing and going through how ticketing works in the United States. And so that was interesting to see. And I think sometimes as Americans, we are so used to capitalism and being screwed over by these ticket companies with their fees and their rise in prices at different times for whatever it might be, that we saw in the beginning, especially knowing that there wasn't a lot of consistency to what was happening, right? It was wild to see how expensive some of these tickets were getting, and fan groups, especially from like the clubs that are playing, they were not getting like special ticketing for their fan groups. It was like, welcome to the United States, where this is how it is, right? Now, obviously, FIFA ticketing is probably going to be a little bit different because it's not just going to be Ticketmaster or whoever running the ticketing. It's going to be FIFA. But I think people need to be ready for a more North American ticketing like view of things when it goes down. But seeing the costs get cut time over time, I think there's other reasons people didn't travel as to why there is less demand. There are people who are not feeling safe to go to stadiums right now. But I think in general, it's not a good look. And I think what we're going to end up seeing, my long story short to wrap it up, I don't think there's going to be a lot of people. I think there's going to be a lot of corporations buying tickets.
Yes.
And we're going to see a lot of families coming on their corporations like block.
I will say hold on, Zazzy. I will say that I think this is mostly an American issue. I think in Canada and Mexico, we will run into less of those. Mostly because in Mexico, they almost burnt Azteca down when they were... for those who don't know, when they built that stadium, they gave out lifetime suites, and that included the game, including the World Cup, and FIFA tried to negate that contract. And let's just say this is what happens when you have strong unions. Let's just say that rule did not go into force. But yes,
San Ursula is for the people.
I think that like what we'll see is kind of similar to what you see with the Olympics, where it's like people don't necessarily like care as much about soccer on the day-to-day, but when it's like a World Cup or when it's a like Olympics, like that's when people are going to be like, you know what, bet I'm going to spend the money to go. Like I feel like even Bailey's probably been getting a lot more people that like they don't come to FC Dallas games, but like they'll be asking about World Cup tickets. And it's like I do think that there is going to be, especially more locally, a big uptick in attendance, but I do think that there's going to be more of a problem for the clubs and for the countries that are coming over and their supporters, and having them, one, be able to get the tickets, two, will they even be able to get over here?
There are people in Central and South America. Some of those they've already said, even if you start your visa process now, the visa process won't be done by the World Cup. And the reality is that they should have put in an implementation to where your visa was tied to your ticket, so that if you get a ticket, that is your visa in for the World Cup. That's what's happened in other countries, but big, beautiful game, right? Here we are. So I say that in code for who needs it. But the reality is that we're looking at this. FIFA's gonna have to do something and learn a lesson. And the third market on these things is going to be insane. Insane.
Yeah, my concern for tickets is, plenty of the stuff you guys brought up, but the fact that they're expanding the field so much means we're going to have some garbage matchups. And I think even in a World Cup where there's none of the other political ramifications going on, you might struggle with some of those games even. So I think a lot of these early group stage games and some of the early knockout rounds are going to have issues regardless in terms of attendance.
Dallas is probably going to see some pretty good games just because of where we're landing on some of the stuff, but it really might actually hurt financially some of the host locations if they get some of these expansion teams and those fans from those expanded countries that maybe wouldn't have usually been able to come in can't make it to the games, right?
So one final thought before we do an ISO on Bailey to go off for, let's say 5 minutes. My thoughts are, as long as let's keep SeatGeek, i.e. Ticketmaster, i.e. whatever other subsidiary they want to use to hide the fact they're a monopoly.
It's all Live Nation.
Yeah.
Yes.
They might come for us, but
them. If we keep them out of it, we might be okay. Quick thought. I want like a 20-second answer. Given all the answers that you just gave me, how do you think the attendance turns out if the U.S. flames out in the group stage?
Good. I don't think anybody's going for the U.S.
I honestly do.
Oh no!
I kind of agree. I think it's going to be more of like there's a soccer game, like it's a World Cup. Like I think they're going to go regardless of who is playing, and especially the closer it gets to finals. Like those are always the games. Like let's be real. Whenever I watch the World Cup, I like watching the U.S. side, but like I will watch whatever game is happening.
Fair enough.
If people wanted to watch the U.S., they would watch the Gold Cup. And as y'all can see, there were people on this podcast who didn't know they played tonight. So that's how we feel about.
Wow, I feel seen. Go ahead.
It's hard for me to say as a soccer sicko, right? I watch every game I can. So do y'all, I believe, or I know Marcus does. Because I'm going to be tuning in for the worst matchups. So it's hard for me, from my perspective, to say it. But I think that it'll probably be contingent on just what teams in general are around, not just the U.S. per se.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, fingers crossed it goes off with as minimal big beautifulness as possible. Matter of fact, we'll just refer to that as going forward. This big beautifulness. Never mind. We can't get into that. So this is an ISO for Bailey and or Zazie if she wants to jump in here. Let me add this to the slide. So we have
download Game Time.
There you go. Download Game Time and Foot Mob and all the things. Soccer. There's always a soccer match somewhere around the world. So if you're an addict like we are, there's always something to watch. But Bailey, this is all you. Go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that FIFA dropped their anti-discrimination, anti-racism messaging in the middle of the Club World Cup, which is not great. And I would love to hear y'all's thoughts maybe on it. But the 2026 World Cup was actually supposed to be the first World Cup that was supposed to have a human rights aspect to the bidding system. We saw how Qatar was. And then somewhere along the way, 2030, right, Saudi Arabia got the World Cup. And in the middle, 2026 was supposed to be this shining beacon of inclusivity and making sure that there were human rights standards in all of the host cities. That process has not gone the way that maybe it should have or was envisioned. A lot has gotten dropped along the way. There are coalitions out there, one being Dignity 2026, which the Independent Supporters Council is a part of. Dallas Beer Guardians are a part of ISC, the Independent Supporters Council. So the supporter voices are being heard in all of this. But there is some real concern, right? And I'd love to hear what y'all think. But the fact that we're literally dropping the anti-racism, anti-discrimination messaging before these major games where we're still seeing homophobic chants, we're seeing people potentially worried if the really frozen cold, can we say, I don't know, like that government agency that we don't like in our drinks.
Yeah, neat. Yeah, neat.
Neat, right? Like they're outside of stadiums at times, right?
Frozen water,
frozen water, right? Like we're seeing these issues, and we know Infantino is really tight with Velveeta Voldemort over here. So I'm just saying, like, I think the timing is not weird that this is all happening, but I think there is concern, right? Like there's concern of the precedent that it's setting going into this year, running up to World Cup. And what is that saying to the rest of the world? I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts?
Well, and I think like it's interesting that it's happening again because, like you said, this happened with Qatar. Like they kept saying that they were going to have certain things
protections,
and then they didn't, and then they just kept pushing it off. So it's like you would hope that FIFA would kind of like have learned from that, but I think the thing is like what we see in general is FIFA doesn't learn from anything.
Or they don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both can be true. But I think that it's something that like is very important to us, and maybe it is something that is not as important to others. That doesn't necessarily make it right, though.
Yeah, I'm never surprised when FIFA decides to compromise for the dollar. That's not shocking at all to me. Even these programs are only in place because someone that's not FIFA cared, right?
Yeah.
To me, and I'm not going to downplay this because it matters a lot. It's like Google dropping the "Don't be evil." You know, like you kind of were already, but sure, whatever. And like, as much as FIFA wants to pretend they were about inclusivity and stuff, it was never them. It was always the groups around them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It feels like par for the course at this point for the organization. It's just worse because of the climate we're in right now.
Yeah, and in case people haven't gotten the big picture of what this podcast is about, FIFA prioritizes profit. I think that would be like the one thing we can sum up this entire podcast on.
Yes, but
profits over everything.
They're registered in Switzerland as a guessed it non-profit. Anyways,
you can see, we'll talk about anyways. There's other things like you can see where bribe money was taken.
No. Didn't we put the last president of FIFA in jail for taking bribes, and then the new one is like, I'll just take bribes better. That guy was sloppy.
Yeah, he's like, work smarter, not harder.
I'm pretty sure these dudes walk around with literal sacks with money signs on them. So,
so funny story. So I worked in Jamaica for the Federation a long time ago. And yes, they literally do hand off suitcases of money. So just FYI, yeah, it's a thing. Yeah, but anyways, my thoughts on this is here's the thing: they stopped kneeling. You know, this is why I'm a Nas instead of a Jay-Z fan for my music lovers. Is that when you come out and say we're past kneeling, and then you proceed to do absolutely nothing. So then, how did we get past it? We just forgot about it. Like I said earlier.
Yeah, you're not past it. You're done with it.
Yeah. It's a goldfish. We only remember the last 5 minutes. I will tell you what won't be dropped, but I couldn't.
Money.
Because then we'll be no. There's a specific thing. There's only one kind of discrimination we will never forget. And we can't talk about it. Therefore, you know how powerful they are. Anyway, so yeah. Great thing, guys. Here's the thing. It's in the US, so I think they don't think they need to enforce any of this stuff because we are the shining beacon on the hill, according to Reagan. That light is as dim as ever, but whatever, we'll just keep it moving.
Mm-hmm.
As lovers of the sport, you know, we will just do our best to enjoy the sport, enjoy the fans that come in all shades. You know, even on this podcast here, you know, we have the globe in its sense, right? You know, although funny side note here, someone pointed out to me that when North American artists say they're going on a world tour, it's really just a white tour, right? They
It
basically
really is, man.
They do. They don't even go to Mexico most of the time. They do Canada.
It's the United States for K-pop. It's the joke.
Yeah, like
That
World Tour
America's-
Vegas.
It's weird.
It's 3 or 5 spots in the United States, and they call it North America.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just but that's again. I just blew my mind. I saw that earlier. I was like, yeah, they just go to like they go to Western Europe, America, Canada, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and that's a world tour. And I'm like, yo, you missed like 6.5 billion people in the middle, bro. I don't know what to tell you. That said, FIFA is gonna do what FIFA is gonna do, and the only thing we can really do is challenge power, because power on challenge is unwieldy. So that said,
You know what we can also do to somebody who has a lot of money? Shake
What
that
is that?
ass.
Facts. Speaking of stripper poles, anyway, I want to thank the ladies for joining and keeping us somewhat on time and in check.
Thank you for calling out U.S. men. ...
Yeah, that was crazy.
It's a pleasure.
I feel that might be the clip we put on social media. Like, I'm just really disappointed with U.S. men. Pause. National team. There you go. Anyways, any final thoughts from you guys before we call it a day? Let me actually get this off the screen so we can see y'all beautiful faces. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted you to tell me I'm pretty. That's it.
I'm ready for the soccer of summer to be over so that we can just start working through the disaster that is going to be 2026.
That's a fact. Hubert, sorry, Unabomber, sir. Any final thoughts?
Yeah. FIFA is not football. The sport is so much bigger than them, and I just hope one day we can maybe prove that to them in whatever ways you see fit.
You know what? That felt like a call to arms, but we're gonna keep it PC here.
No, call to arms is one of our chants.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Anyways, I wanna thank everyone. So we're at the end of the pod, so we're gonna do what we normally do. So we actually got rid of one of the signed jerseys to Vanessa. We have 2 more. So if you find any of us,
we have 1 left.
Oh, someone bought one, so we have 1 left. Oh, you bought it, Hubert? Or
no,
wasn't me. Or do you want to keep it, or should we try to give it away?
Nah, market it. Let's
sure?
go.
Okay, so if you come up to anyone in leadership and you notate the first ever game played by the Burn, the date, you get a free signed jersey. We only have 1 remaining, so look forward to meeting some of our podcast listeners, the lunatics who are willing to listen to the end of this, for sure.
The end of this 50-minute short episode.
Sure, exactly, right? Never on time.
I'll be at TIFO on Wednesday. Anybody can find me. That'll be
that's right. TIFO on Wednesday. Follow us, Dallas Guardians, on everything on social media for the fundraiser that we notated at the beginning of this episode. And again, our condolences to everyone. Quick thought, Bailey, since you have the kid on, what do you think of the New Jersey team being called the Cosmos?
I have feelings. I don't think we have enough time to talk about those feelings. I might need to go to therapy with those feelings before we talk about it. But you know what? Maps, boundaries. We're FC Dallas. We play in Frisco. So sometimes the name is just that.
There we go. I mean, that being said, they played in East Rutherford in the 70s, so it's not new. That's why one of their trademarks is just the Cosmos instead of New York Cosmos. But anyway, tune in for our regularly scheduled programming, which should be coming out on Tuesday, where we get another rant, because 3 in a row, and it's basically Quill out.
No, give Quill at least 2 seasons. We need a better technical director. Okay, anyways.
Zanata out. There we go. Anyways, thank everyone for joining. Thanks everyone for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Like, share, and subscribe.
Oh, yeah.